Iran's message to Trump is getting louder, sharper, and impossible to ignore as Tehran signals that it may be preparing its strongest response yet. Mojtaba Khamenei's latest power move has stunned observers, reshaping Iran's internal power balance in a way that almost no one saw coming. The hardliner Trump never expected to challenge him is now calling the shots, giving Iran's leadership a far more confrontational voice. Has Iran's feared war general returned to power, bringing back the commander the IDF once considered one of its most dangerous adversaries? This shock appointment could determine who controls the future of the strait, while pushing the region closer to a dangerous new confrontation. Iran has brought back one of its most feared and experienced political military figures, and the timing of this dramatic decision could not be more explosive. With the Strait of Hormuz remaining at the heart of the escalating Iran-US standoff, Tehran has announced a stunning change at the highest level of its security leadership. Mohsen Rezaei has replaced Mohammad Bagher Zolghadr, taking over as Iran's top security official at a moment of intense regional tension and uncertainty. Rezaei is a veteran commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and a trusted advisor to Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei. In addition to his new position, Rezaei will serve as Khamenei's representative on Iran's powerful Supreme National Security Council. Zolghadr assumed the position after former Secretary Ali Larijani was killed in an Israeli strike, creating a sudden vacancy at the top of Iran's security apparatus. However, Zolghadr's tenure lasted only a matter of months after he replaced Ali Larijani earlier this year amid growing pressure on Tehran's leadership. Both Rezaei and Zolghadr are regarded as hardliners within Iran's leadership, known for supporting a tougher approach toward the country's regional and foreign adversaries. However, analysts argue that Zolghadr never possessed the same authority or influence as Iran's most senior military commanders. His influence was considered weaker than that of several current and former commanders who have built powerful networks within Iran's military and political establishment. This leadership change comes as Iran holds crucial talks over possible agreement to reopen, or at least manage commercial traffic through, the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. Any agreement to restore shipping through the strait would require approval from Iran's Supreme National Security Council and, ultimately, Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei. Zolghadr reportedly demanded the withdrawal of US troops from the region, compensation for wartime damage, and sanctions relief before Iran would agree to reopen the waterway. Iran and Oman are reportedly nearing an agreement to manage commercial traffic through the Gulf choke point, although the emerging plan may involve only a controlled and temporary shipping corridor rather than a full reopening. Last week, Rezaei claimed that Iran had already displaced much of the US military presence in Kuwait, Qatar, and Jordan, presenting the assertion as evidence of Tehran's growing regional influence. Rezaei also warned that Iran would not permit the creation of a second maritime corridor through the Strait of Hormuz, insisting that Tehran must retain control over the waterway. He further warned that any US military deployment inside the strategic waterway would be treated as a direct threat and could come under attack from Iranian forces.
The wave-like attacks became more precise and intense. Missiles and drones were launched toward the U.S. base to such an extent that Kuwait was turned into ruins. Most forces have been displaced from there. In Erbil, more than 40 to 50 B-52 aircraft had arrived, and many forces were moved out of Erbil. More importantly, the CENTCOM command, which was in Qatar, first moved to Jordan. We also hit Jordan severely, so the commander moved from Jordan to Israel. What does this mean? It means that the apparatus for an imminent battle is being set up so that when they come to the Strait of Hormuz, they can command and provide support from nearby, both command and support for targeting operations in the Strait of Hormuz. Now there is no ceasefire, but our attacks have meaning. For example, we will by no means allow a second corridor to open in the Strait of Hormuz. Even if they bring an aircraft carrier, we will hit the carrier. If they bring military forces, we will hit them. For now, we threaten the ships not to go. Fortunately, many ships listen to our threats and turn back, and we do not engage. But some, who are clearly under complete pressure from the Americans, come. Well, they sustain some damage, and then they turn back themselves. I heard that yesterday, apparently, Mr. Trump said, we had an operation larger than World War II. His reference is to the very thing I am talking about. Yes, you're dreaming, Mr. Trump. You were in a dream and a fantasy. But why wasn't it implemented? Why didn't your people set foot on the ground? No, I cannot say it has been completely ruled out. But firstly, it has become very weak and the probability has decreased. Secondly, Even if it is carried out, it will be limited, for example, in the form of a raid. Forcing Ukraine to launch a ship attack, they also got in touch saying that no, this was a mistake. We made a mistake. Well, we are currently investigating because we are prepared to strike 3 points in Ukraine. However, after they said it was a mistake, since we are not truly seeking to expand the war and we do not want to incite warmongering. Trump's third war was because they said, we will open the Strait of Hormuz, go in and seize Iran's oil and gas, KAG, and so on. In northern Iran, we deploy air defense. There are only a few bridges and roads leading from north to south, most of which pass through highlands. Therefore, we take Iran's oil and gas, and the management of the Strait of Hormuz falls into our hands, removing it from Iran's control. Now, would the world tolerate this? Would even the Europeans tolerate the global economy's choke point being in America's hands? Would China tolerate it? This itself could have been a catalyst for World War III.
Trump says Washington is low-keying it with Iran, signaling no immediate new U.S. offensive as the administration waits to see whether pressure and diplomacy deliver a breakthrough. The U.S. president says his administration is only semi-negotiating with Tehran, according to Axios, reflecting the absence of a full direct diplomatic process. Trump says the U.S. is just watching Iran as economic pressure continues to bear down on Tehran. Trump says the U.S. naval blockade has deepened economic pressure on Iran, precisely the policy Tehran wants removed before it agrees to fully reopen Hormuz. Trump also argues that oil prices above $75 a barrel have limited the war's impact on U.S. consumers, even as Hormuz tensions continue to unsettle global energy markets. Donald Trump said, and I quote, "We are low-keying it. We are only semi-negotiating with them. We are just watching Iran with its huge inflation and the fact they have no money. It will work out. It always works out. It's like a chess game." Unquote. Trump's remarks suggest Iran's resistance has kept Washington from immediate military escalation, even as U.S. pressure and threats remain in place. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says Tehran backs talks with the U.S. from a position of power and unity, arguing that negotiations must secure Iran's legitimate rights, not require surrender.
I believe the present moment is the most opportune time for an agreement between Iran and the U.S. With this cohesion, power, and unity, and as far as I know, and perhaps you know even more, we can compel the entire world to perceive Iran as a true victor of this war and conflict. Armed with this authority, we can secure our legitimate rights through these dialogues. Ultimately, they must acknowledge and grant us what is rightfully ours. Naturally, we seek nothing beyond the rights and due entitlements of our country and our people. We remain determined, God willing, to proceed with that same Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, provided that the U.S. stops fostering an atmosphere of mistrust and instead cultivates a climate of genuine confidence, because America is indeed profoundly unreliable. Nevertheless, if we can make any meaningful headway toward resolving the outstanding issues, we are sparing no effort to do so.
Iran's Supreme National Security Council has revealed drastic new conditions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz amid the ongoing standoff with Washington. Iran said the Strait of Hormuz would remain closed until the U.S. corrected its behavior, according to Iranian state broadcaster Press TV. Council Secretary Mohammad Bagher Zolghadr announced the conditions, with Iranian state media detailing Tehran's demands for reopening the strategic waterway. Iran's latest position turned reopening the Strait of Hormuz into a broader demand for major concessions from the United States. Iran has demanded an end to all U.S. threats and what it calls insults to Iran's national and religious values. Tehran wants attacks on Iran and its allies in Lebanon, Palestine, Yemen, and Iraq to be permanently halted. Iran has called for the U.S. naval blockade to be lifted and U.S. naval and air forces withdrawn from around Iran. Tehran is demanding compensation for damage caused by what it describes as two imposed wars. Iran has also demanded the removal of all U.S. sanctions imposed against the country. Tehran is seeking the unconditional release of all Iranian assets currently frozen abroad. However, journalist Barak Ravid said the conditions were demands that the United States clearly cannot accept. Barack Ravid warned that Iran's demands could leave President Trump with fewer diplomatic options and push Washington back toward a military response.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.